Welcome to the Haven Collective. I'm J.R. Foresteros, and this is the Beacon Bit. We are not quite halfway to Halloween, so I thought it would be a safe time to talk about haunted houses. I don't know if you've ever been to one, not like I'm trying to figure out how to say this, not a real haunted house, like that has ghosts in it and stuff, but I mean like the theme park style haunted houses where you pay people to go through and, then people jump out and scare you. I don't know if you've ever done one of those. I think they're hilarious because they prey on that like natural biological impulse we have to jump, right? You know that things are going to be jumping out at you and maybe even, grabbing at you and things like that. And so when a group of people goes through a haunted house, you're all bunched up together and you're kind of like hunched over because you're just waiting for something to, get you. And I think that reaction that we have, right, to an atmosphere of terror or an atmosphere of threat and danger, that desire to bunch together and hunch over and kind of protect ourselves is something that we probably can resonate with in our culture right now. We've been in a season of massive cultural upheaval now for almost a decade. If you think all the way back to, 2014 was kind of when the BLM movement kicked off and really started pressing for a lot of changes in civil rights. That was around the time that gay marriage was legalized, and again created a lot of tension in our culture as more and more groups are getting rights and things like that. And then the predictable backlash to that. Of course, we've had the elections and the various political turmoils, but it's been a long season of change, of fear, of anxiety. And what we've seen over the years is people bunching together in their like-minded groups and kind of hunching over and being less open and being less generous. I know I've felt that. I'm sure you've felt that too. And we should just acknowledge that it's a natural reaction to anxiety, to an atmosphere of fear and change and the terror that surrounds that. Now, last week at Easter, we began a series called Heaven is a Place on Earth. And we talked about how with the resurrection of Jesus, God began this sort of new way of existing in the world, but it's at tension with the old ways of the world. And so for the rest of our series, we're going to be in the book of Revelation, because the Revelation is one of the best places in the New Testament that explores what it really means for us to live as people of this new creation, of this new world, while we're still in the midst of an old world. That's exactly what the churches that the Revelation is addressed to were facing. There were 7 of them, and they were scattered throughout the Roman province of Asia, which is modern-day Turkey. So cities like Laodicea and Ephesus and Smyrna. And the province of Asia was a place where there was a lot of tension for these churches because the region was rabidly loyal to the Roman Empire, and these churches were seen as a threat because they were celebrating a different king, King Jesus, instead of Caesar. So they were facing various kinds of persecution, and it was difficult for them to be faithful to the way of Jesus in the midst of a culture that was suffused with fear and anxiety around all of that. And so when we read the book of Revelation, we're actually reading a guidebook for these churches, many of whom were struggling with a lot of the same kinds of fears and anxieties and tensions that we are. How do we continue to be open and generous instead of hunched over and bunched together, right? What does it look like for us to be open, for us to be loving, for us to not be fearful? So the passage for today, Revelation 1, verses 4 through 8, are just the introduction to the book. They're telling us that this is a revelation of Jesus. The book of Revelation is showing us again who Jesus is so that we remember the kinds of people that we are meant to be. And as you read through that, you just see all of these insistences that the world does not belong to the fear mongers and to the power brokers. It actually belongs to Jesus. John calls him the Alpha and the Omega, which is sort of like saying the A and the Z, right? He is the beginning and the end. He's the first and the last. Everything began with him. Everything is going to end with him. And everything in between belongs to him. This is a really powerful opening statement for the book. And it's a reminder to everyone who is listening that we all belong to Jesus. And the reason that we can choose to be open, choose to be generous, choose to be loving and vulnerable is not because the world is safe, because it's not. I mean, again, Jesus got crucified, right? It's because Jesus is the final arbiter of what is true and what is good. And even if it requires resurrection, he will have his way. So I look forward to discussing this tension that we experience between the way the world is and the way that we wish that we could be, what it takes for us to be brave and bold and generous, and the risks that we run for doing that. I think this is going to be a really powerful and provocative conversation, and it's one that's going to springboard us into the coming weeks. We're going to do that on our Beacon on this Sunday. Until then, grace and peace be with all of you.